Jeff Gural, chairman of Meadowlands Racetrack and Winners, hosted a breakfast for the Bayonne Chamber of Commerce regarding why citizens should support the referendum on the expansion of gaming and casinos to northern New Jersey on Election Day.
So basically, Atlantic City has lost almost all of that business. There is no one coming from the north to go to Atlantic City. They're all going to Bethlehem. Fortunately, we own that. Yonkers or Africa. And you can see why. Within 50 miles of Atlantic City, there are 1.5 million people. Within 50 miles of Aqueduct, there's 14 million people. Parks, another competitor, has 7.3 million people within 50 miles. Sands also has 7 million people within 50 miles. So they're doing great. Now you go look at Meadowlands, and there's 14 million people that live within 50 miles of each other. So clearly, if you were going to start over again, nobody in their right mind would say, let's put all the casinos where the fewest people live in New Jersey.
Then he talked about the taxes on gaming revenue.
What's happened in these other states is they very wisely said, you know, politicians, I don't think people want to vote for us if we have to raise taxes. How do we raise money to fill the deficit? So they've all gone out and allowed casino gambling. And what you find is, and they've done it to raise revenue, so they don't raise taxes. Only New Jersey has done the opposite. They basically made it clear that their objective is to make the casino owners as wealthy as possible and screw the taxpayers.
He used New York as an example with a $949 million worth of revenue going to education. In his presentation, he also pointed out that New Jersey has one of the lowest state gaming tax revenues by state in 2015 at $230 million. He explained that this is mainly due to the effective gaming tax rate by the state of New Jersey at 9.6%, which is second to lowest to Nevada. Furthermore, he included that Caesars owned 4 of the 11 casinos in Atlantic City and opened a Harrah's Casino racetrack in Chester, Pennsylvania, which is only 70 miles away from Atlantic City.
But it was okay for Caesars to go build a casino 70 miles away in Chester, Pennsylvania. You'll see the joke of this, how they've ripped off the taxpayers and why Atlantic City is a dump. What you have, basically, stupidly, because everybody's so gung-ho to protect MGM and Caesars and Morris, my friend, is that the casino industry in Atlantic City basically takes the money that they make in Atlantic City and build casinos to compete with Atlantic City. And the best example of that is Harrah's Chester. This is a joke. I mean, people should be outraged. But no one cares. The Meadowlands, both Steve Wynn and Sheldon Adelson have said that the Meadowlands would be the #1 casino location in the world. Okay? So we know Aqueduct does $850 million without table games. And look where they are, in Queens, where access from New York, if you want to drive to Aqueduct, other than maybe a couple hours in the middle of the night, the traffic's terrible. So I said to myself, well, I'll pay it. I know how much money we make at Bethlehem. We make about $150 million a year. I said, I'll pay the Pennsylvania tax rate, and that'll generate $400 or $500 million. And people will say, yeah, Gural's willing to pay us $500 million. These 8 greedy pigs in Atlantic City combined are only paying us $200 million. Makes sense. But what happened was, I begged the politicians, you know, what's his name? Sweeney was the only one who really got it. And Sarlo. This legislation was designed to save Atlantic City. But they're so stupid that they didn't figure that out. And they're so greedy. And the people listen to these stupid politicians that they have down there who say, oh, it's going to destroy Atlantic City. It's going to save Atlantic City. So Sweeney comes up with a bill. He's a South guy. He doesn't want to get hammered by them. He says, Jeff, I'll put it on the ballot, but we got to rebuild Atlantic City. We got to give most of the money to help rebuild Atlantic City. So they craft a bill where essentially 40% of the revenue that we would pay in taxes goes to Atlantic City. So we estimate that at a bare minimum, a casino at the Meadowlands and the one in Jersey City would generate at least $500 million a year in taxes. Truthfully, I guarantee it if somebody asked me to guarantee it. So 40% is $200 million a year for the next 15 years. That's $3 billion. Then in year 16, it declines for the next 10 years, it declines like by $20 million a year. Now, these guys have said, we've got to reinvent ourselves. We're going to survive. We don't have to worry. We're going to be nightclubs, food, all this other stuff. They're right. They got to reinvent themselves because these young kids are not sitting in front of a slot machine. Las Vegas has reinvented itself. They're never going to be able to reinvent themselves if they live in a city that's bankrupt and that you have to drive through a slum to get to the boardwalk. They have zero chance of reinventing themselves. So basically, I guarantee you, at some point in the next few years, people are going to look back and say, boy, what were these guys thinking? This was an unbelievable, great deal that Sweeney put on the table, and they rejected it because they got, people down there that just think, well, no one's going to really look at this carefully, so we'll just oppose it. It sounds good to oppose it. It's like Donald Trump saying the election is rigged.
Hudson County View, the eye of the community.